Picture this. You've spent years building a share portfolio, an ETF or two, maybe an investment property, quietly counting on the 50% capital gains tax discount when you eventually sell. From the 1st of July 2027, that half-off deal investors have leaned on for decades is being replaced. And if you haven't heard much about it, that's not on you. Almost nobody outside the tax world is explaining what it actually does to your gains. Let me walk you through it. Here's who this touches, and it's broader than you'd think. If you hold any capital gains asset outside super, shares, ETFs, managed funds, or property, this is your situation. So today I'll walk you through 3 simple moves. Audit your unrealized gains and your sell timing, check whether super or a different structure cuts your exposure, and verify which of your properties keep the old discount. 3 moves, and you'll know exactly where you stand before the window closes. Here's the number that should make you sit up. A $200,000 gain on an ETF you've held 10 years is taxed today on just $100,000 thanks to the 50% discount. After the change with inflation indexation, that taxable gain jumps to around $154,000, according to StockSpot's 2026 modeling and the Treasury budget. But here's the part most people miss. For most share and ETF investors, indexation is actually less generous than the discount you're used to. Let me show you why. So here's your plan. 3 moves. Audit your gains and your timing. Check super and your structures. Verify your property options. Each one's free. Each takes under 20 minutes. And by the end, you'll know your real numbers instead of guessing. So what's actually changing? Right now, if you hold a capital gains asset, shares, ETFs, or property, for more than 12 months, you generally pay tax on only 50% of the gain. From the 1st of July 2027, the ATO, the Australian Taxation Office, replaces that 50% discount with cost-based indexation and a 30% minimum tax rate on capital gains. Indexation just means your purchase price gets lifted by inflation, so you only pay tax on the real gain, not the half-off gain you're used to. Sounds fair on paper, the numbers tell a different story. Let me show you what that looks like in real dollars. Say you're on the top 45% rate. You buy an ETF for $100,000, hold it 10 years, and sell for $300,000. Today, the 50% discount makes $100,000 taxable, about $45,000 in tax. After 2027, with 4% inflation, indexation only lifts your cost base to about $148,000, leaving roughly $152,000 taxable, around $68,000 in tax, per StockSpot's 2026 figures. That's about $23,000 more on the very same gain. And here's where it gets trickier. Now the second layer, and I want to be upfront, this one catches people out. Treasury confirms the new rules only apply to gains that accrue from the 1st of July 2027, so if you hold an asset across that date, your gain gets split. The part before keeps the 50% discount, the part after faces indexation. But here's the real catch most people don't mention. There's a 30% minimum floor. Even if your income is low and your marginal rate drops below 30%, your capital gains are still taxed at a minimum of 30% per the ATO. So a quiet low-income year won't save you the way you might assume. This turns into a genuine timing decision. And I want you to see both sides honestly. Picture a $500,000 portfolio you bought for $250,000. A $250,000 gain. Sell before July 2027, and the 50% discount makes $125,000 taxable, roughly $48,750 in tax at 39%. Hold past 2027 on a high-growth portfolio, and even after indexation, the 30% floor can cost you tens of thousands more. The window to lock in the old discount closes on the 30th of June 2027. But selling isn't automatically the right call, which is exactly why you model it. Now let me clear up a myth that's quietly leaving people exposed. Most people assume this only affects property investors because all the headlines were about negative gearing and housing. It's not. It applies to every capital gains asset. Law firm analysis from Baker McKenzie confirms shares, ETFs, and managed funds are squarely captured. So if you've got a brokerage account, this is your situation too. And most people in your position don't realize it yet. Let me put the scale of this together for you. On just one $200,000 ETF gain, losing the discount adds around $23,000 in tax per StockSpot. across a full investing life, shares and property combined, one investor could plausibly pay around $120,000 more in capital gains tax over time. The discount disappearing, plus that 30% floor, quietly compounds into serious money. Let me show you how that plays out for one real-world investor. Let me make this real with someone you might recognize. Meet Sarah. She's 42, a senior marketing manager earning $180,000 a year, which puts her on the top 45% rate. Outside super, she holds $220,000 in ETFs, bought for $120,000, plus an investment apartment she bought in 2015 for $600,000, now worth $900,000. She's got 23 years to her retirement target. Here's what Sarah found when she ran her numbers. First, her ETFs. If Sarah sells today, she pays tax on 50% of her $100,000 gain. $50,000 taxable, about $22,500 in tax. But if she waits and her gain grows to $200,000, indexation might only lift her cost base by $30,000 to $40,000, leaving roughly $160,000 taxable, about $72,000 or more in tax on StockSpot's modeling. That's an extra $50,000 plus she never planned for on her ETFs alone. And her apartment surprised her even more. Now her apartment. Because Sarah bought it well before the negative gearing cutoff, she's grandfathered from those limits. So far, so good. But here's the part that genuinely surprised her. She is not exempt from the CGT reform per Baker McKenzie's analysis. If her apartment climbs from $900,000 to $1.2 million, that's a $300,000 gain. Indexation might strip out $50,000 to $70,000 of inflation, leaving a real gain of well over $200,000, all taxed at a minimum 30%, around $69,000 or more in CGT. And here's the discovery that stung most. Sarah assumed that if she worked part-time later in life on a lower income, her CGT rate would simply follow her marginal rate. It won't. Because of that 30% minimum, a future $100,000 real gain in a year where her marginal rate dropped to 21% would still cost her $30,000 in tax instead of $10,500 today, according to the ATO and Treasury. That's nearly 3 times higher in the very year she expected a break. Add it all up across Sarah's remaining investing life, her ETFs growing toward $500,000, her property toward $1.4 million, and the combined hit from losing the discount and facing the 30% floor plausibly adds around $100,000 in extra capital gains tax on this modeling. That's the order of magnitude, money she quietly built her whole plan around. Now, your numbers will be different, so let's work out whether this is even you. So could this actually be you? 3 quick signs. 1. You hold shares, ETFs, or property outside super. 2. You don't actually know the unrealized gains sitting on each of your assets. 3. You've never compared selling before versus after July 2027. If any of those ring true, the next 3 moves are exactly what you need, and none of them take long. So where does this leave you? You don't need to overhaul your whole financial life. You just need a few specific, practical steps you can start today. 3 moves. Let's do them together. Move 1. Audit your unrealized gains and your timing. Go to MyGov, open ATO online, and download your capital gains tax summary and transaction history. For every asset, shares, ETFs, property, work out the gain, market value minus your cost base. Then model 2 scenarios. Selling now under the 50% discount versus selling after July 2027 under indexation and the 30% floor. And remember, this is general information, not personal tax advice. Your own circumstances matter. Here's how to do it in 3 quick steps. 1. Log into MyGov, open ATO online and download your CGT summary. 2. List each asset's market value minus its cost base. 3. Run the sell now versus sell after 2027 numbers using the ATO's own calculators. You'll know you've nailed it when you can say, in actual dollars, exactly what waiting past 2027 would cost you. Move 2. Check whether super or a different structure changes your exposure. Capital gains inside superannuation are typically taxed at 15% or less versus the 30% plus effective rate you'll face on the assets held in your own name under the new rules. So log into your fund, look at your growth asset split, and use the government's free Your Super comparison tool to make sure your fund isn't dragging you down on fees and performance. 3 steps here. 1. Download your super investment mix and your growth asset split. 2. Compare the 15% in Super CGT against 30% plus outside under the new regime. 3. Use your Super to confirm your fund is actually competitive. You're in good shape when most of your long-term growth is sitting in that 15% taxed environment rather than fully exposed. Move 3. Verify whether any property of yours is a new build. From 2027, only investors in new builds can choose to keep the old 50% discount instead of the indexation plus minimum tax framework. So pull your contract dates and completion certificates and cross-check them against ATO guidance to see which of your properties, current or planned, still qualify for that choice. It's a quirk that can work in your favor if it applies to you. 3 steps. 1. Pull the contract dates and completion certificates for each property. 2. Cross-check them against the ATO's new build and CGT reform guidance. 3. Flag clearly whether the 50% discount choice is available to you. You'll know you're done when you can say which of your properties keep the discount and which don't. No guesswork left. So why act now when it's not even law yet? Because the clock's already running. In 2026, the budget announced negative gearing limits from 7:30 p.m. on the 12th of May, per the ATO. On the 1st of July 2027, the 50% CGT discount is abolished and replaced per Treasury. And from that date, transitional rules mean only gains accruing after July 2027 hit the new regime. So the value of your asset on that day matters. It's announced policy, not yet law. But the start date is set and the time to model your options is now, not in 2027. Once you've done all 3 moves, here's how to check it worked. You should have a clear dollar figure for the unrealized gain on every asset you hold. You should know whether selling before July 2027 clearly saves you 5 figures. And if a property is a new build, you'll want that discount choice confirmed in writing. If anything's still unclear, drop your question in the comments. I read them. Everything I've walked you through comes from the ATO, Treasury's 2026 budget papers, stock spots analysis, and Baker McKenzie. All the links are below if you want to check the detail yourself before you make any decision. If you've made it this far, you now understand something most investors don't. The 50% discount is ending, and exactly how to model your shares, ETFs, and property before it does. Your next step is to spend 20 minutes pulling your CGT summary from MyGov this week. If you want to go deeper, next we're tackling negative gearing, who's grandfathered and who pays more. I'm Sophie. I'll see you there. If this helped you sidestep a nasty tax surprise, subscribe so the next change doesn't catch you off guard. I'll keep reading the fine print so you don't have to.